G'day guys and welcome. My name is Michael and I am the Dead Aussie Gamer, here to share with you my tips, ideas and strategies for playing and running tabletop role-playing games. Today's video we're going to be talking about death and TPKs in a role-playing game. Are they going to be right for you, and what are some good tips and tricks for handling them in your campaign? Now, as of recent days, I have received a lot of messages about my stance on death and TPKs. In addition, recently, one of my Patreon tables did indeed suffer a total party wipe at the hands of a young dark spawn of Shub Niggurath, which, for those of you who are into the Lovecraftian lore, knows that, yeah, that'll probably do it. So, what happened in my game? Why did it occur, and how did I handle it? Well, let's start by going to the origins of my feelings towards death and TPKs. Now, if you are a fan of my channel, if you are a fan of any of my content, then you will know that I do not shy away from killing off my players. This doesn't mean that as a GM I seek it out, or that I make challenges that I know, for example, will be so heavily one-sided that they will have no choice but to die. And worse, I will never, and I say this with all of the gusto I can muster, I will never kill a player or wipe a party for my story. Never. Never, 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 never. Unless that's the premise of the story, that is to say my entire adventure is set in the afterlife and they have to die at the start of the game. Beyond that, never gonna happen. Never, ever, ever gonna happen. But that doesn't mean I dislike or that I disagree with people who don't want character deaths or TPKs to happen at their campaign. And let me explain why. In my view, I love a good story. I love character development and growth. And I believe firmly that every character, like the campaign, has a beginning, middle, and end. And sometimes that end isn't at the end of the campaign. When a character dies, it leaves behind something. It leaves behind comrades. It leaves behind stories and narratives that can still be tapped on and drawn from. It can inspire a new generation of adventurers. It can inspire a new character. There are so many story ideas that link directly to a PC's death that to not have it for me would be a disservice to the narrative and to my player's experience. That is why I am okay should a character die. TPKs are a little bit different. They're a little bit more heavy-handed. If I even suspect that a TPK might be on the horizon, my players get at least 1 or 2 games and warning. You know, hey guys, listen, you're coming up on a really, really difficult scenario. There might possibly be a TPK on the horizon, okay? This is not a warning. This is not, by the way, rest it be on you should you die. This is a case of just be aware that, yeah, be careful. There are going to be scenarios for you to get into and out of the scenario, this thing. But if you decide to take a gamble and it doesn't pay off, know that this is a consequence on the horizon. Most of my tables accept this as a true tried and tested thing that I've done. And they also know and trust me to be able to handle it tastefully. Having a character die, you know, you can't as a GM turn around and go, oh, natural one! Damn, I guess you get chopped in half, son! Go sit on the naughty kid's table until I am done with the rest of the living! Oh, you get to join him on the naughty table! Get out from my table. I've still got to run it for these two, who now pretty much are screwed because the healer and the tank have gone down. I'm gonna come for you, wizard. Right? You can't handle it like that, funny as it might be. You need to handle it with some grace and some tact, right? Just because the character dies doesn't mean that's the end of them. Doesn't mean that you have to take that player and tell them, sorry, you can't join in anymore. Recently, I was in a game with my Patreons, and the first person to die in that TPK died a substantial time before the rest of them did. So what did I do with that player? Did I tell him to sit out and not enjoy it? No, of course not. First thing I did was I took a moment to drag them into my world. My world, of course, being the afterlife. They got to see their character wandering in a few great scenes of the afterlife and were able to interact with it in a kind of a tangible way. They got to see some of their fallen allies and some of their fallen friends in this space and got to share some final words before moving on. I did this because it's a good last role play for that person, and it keeps them involved. The second thing I did was I found something for them to do in combat. Now, in a rare occasion where I can't insert an NPC or the players don't have like an animal companion or something that this person can drive for a short period of time. In the event that that isn't the case, sometimes I will let my players actually run the monster that they're encountering. The reason for this is simply because it's a cooperative game. It's supposed to be fun. And when your character dies, that doesn't necessarily mean you have to sit out. There are still lots of things that you can do. In this particular TPK instance, my player opted to play one of the NPC companions of the group, who coincidentally also died, but, that's neither here nor there. The point is that they didn't have to sit out. If you're handling death at your table, if you're doing it correctly, at no point in time should someone feel left out. Now, when we look at TPKs, we're looking at something entirely different. It's a whole new beast. You can't simply have this beautiful, quiet swan song every time someone dies, if you've got everyone dying. Sometimes it needs to be about those final moments. What do they choose to do, knowing that death is right there? Death is looming. Now, I've had lots of scenarios where people will fight to the bitter end. That's fine. If that is how your character chooses to die, then that's brilliant. Make it epic. Everything goes into slow motion. You take your sword in hand and you start cutting swaths into it until one of your swings you notice is lighter. You look and you see your arm is missing at the elbow, right? Boom! Make this like so dramatic and so cool, right? That's because that's what that person generally wants, right? If you want to, you can also have a really dramatic send-off for everyone. Okay, I look over at a small NPC. I grab the rare artifact, the Eye of Eden, and I throw it across, and I say, "Find Balthazar." And then a building collapses on you as this huge bird made of lightning crackles sky thunder all the way around and vaporizes the spot that you once stood, right? Passing on the baton, passing on the torch. Great, beautiful, epic moment to focus on in those moments, right? And of course, the most important one, even in a TPK, if someone needs to retire, how do they retire? My character finds himself hiding in a cellar, hearing the sounds of his ally screaming. He curls into a corner and he softly tries to drown out the noise. He hums to himself until there is silence. He rises and sees the wreckage around him and realizes he can't do it anymore. Sometimes when a group TPKs, if you have a survivor, having that survivor carry on can be the right thing, and maybe not. Having them retire is a great moment, and in those by creating what I like to call the final scene. In creating the final scene in a TPK, you give everyone a moment to kind of decide what they wish to do, what they hope to achieve, and try to help them bring it to fruition. Now we've talked about like death and TPKs. I want to talk to the people who don't like death and TPKs. This is your part of the video now. So I've gone over how to handle death. How do we handle without death? Well, for me, death and TPKs go hand in hand with risk and reward, right? If there is no risk of death, if there is no risk of some sort of consequence, right? Then the fastest way to defeat any bad guy is to bring your own hit points down. Follow my logic here. If your hit points go down too low, and your GM is stopping death or not having death as part of their game, then the encounter is over. I've played in a number of games where I know for a fact the GM has had infinite hit points on an encounter. We've battled tooth and nail, but it was only when we were at death's door that all of a sudden, like a miracle, 3 points of damage was exactly what we needed, and the character died, and we're like, oh really? Yep, that's when yep, cool. When you play these sorts of games, the fastest way to win is to kill yourself. And that's just, it's a rough deal, right? So what do we do instead of death? Instead of death, we need to look at consequence. There has to be consequences, otherwise there's no point, right? Death might not necessarily be the only thing you're after. Let's say, for example, that you were fighting a hill giant that has come into town. Fantastic, that's great. The hill giant has been confronted by the heroes, and the hill giant is on the verge of victory, managed to knock our players all about, and they're barely hanging on by a thread. What do we do in this scenario? Well, the easiest thing to do here is have the giant suddenly get drawn by something else. A huge smell. More people. Survivors huddled together in masses by the chapel. Ooh, the hill giant's into that, so he is going to march over, ignoring the attacks and the very frantic blows coming from the players. Well, you know, in a lot of games, the player's full health and being on one hit point doesn't change your combat effectiveness. They're attacking with everything they've gotten. Well, house rule. You guys are starting to get fatigued the more you battle. You fatigue and then you become exhausted. You can barely hold yourselves together. The hill giant reaches the church and tears open it like a bag of freaking candy and rips out people. And you can tell I watched Attack on Titan recently. But anyway, my point being is that there are consequences. Even if it's not the death of your players or a TPK, they have failed. Something has occurred. As soon as that doesn't become a factor, as soon as it's just, I don't have my players die, well, yeah, it doesn't float my boat. It doesn't do anything for me. It is a superfluous game where you may as well just tell us the story because your actions are inconsequential. Your actions don't become a valid part of success or failure when failure is just not an option. That's how I feel about death and TPKs. Death TPKs, fine in my games. No death in TPKs, also fine. So long as there are consequences. Something tangible, right? And it can't be, oh, you spent all your abilities. That's not a consequence. Oh, but, you know, this person is now unable to fulfill his quest. That's good. But what is the catastrophe? What is the thing that happens that make us not want to fail again? What is my motivation to continue? That is the important bit for the non-death tables. Now, I've got a special video that I want to show you guys. This is of the TPK moments in my recent game. It also showcases what I called the final scene. Now, by this stage, as mentioned, one of the players had already died twice. He is playing the town guard. The others, however, are experiencing their very, very first death. The first has come already, and we are now seeing that shift from battle mode to setting the final scene. It's a 5-minute video, so I will probably end this video straight after that. But thank you so much, guys, for watching. Please enjoy the next clip. If you did, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button. Let me know about death and TPKs on your tables and how you run it. In addition, if you guys know exactly what I'm talking about, and I would love to know what your impressions of the famous critical role moment, which I won't talk about because I don't want to spoil it for those people who haven't seen it, but the very famous critical role moment, what were your impressions? What were your thoughts on how Mr. Mercer handled that? And let us know in the comments. Thank you very much. Be sure to, of course, follow all the links to all my other stuff, including Twitch, Twitter, Facebook, and, of course, our Patreon page where you can support this channel. Until next time, guys, as always, game hard or die trying. Bye, everyone. Kinzar, you watch as Thea's body lands and rolls and lands in a pile of, like, debris. The debris sort of leaves, like, this cloud of flour, because that was what was in the, like, several of the sacks that are there. Your face is, like, covered in this gray-white powder. You look around, you can just see the glow of the flames around you. You see the shape of this shadow moving in and out. The tendrils that reach high into the sky, the shouting of the gods, and a whole bunch of them arriving just from all kinds of angles. It's the whole watch that's here. What do you do?
I'm gonna try to crawl over to Thea and take the last clue of Hasselton Lau's location and pass it over to the same guard that I gave that other note and just say, just run. Tell the word.
Alright. Guard captain, what do you want to do?
Guard captain will take the note. He'll step back and let his guards, his people do the actual fighting. And he's gonna take a look at the note and see the evidence that's being brought against Howls and Moon and all the information.
So he stops there and reads it?
No, I'm gonna step back out of dangerous position, right?
Yeah.
I'm an admin guy. I'm not a fighter.
All right. As
That's
you
why
step
we
in,
hang
several of your
do the
soldiers rush in at the same time. You watch as they start getting pulled apart.
Is this your next character
Could be.
over here? The administrative man in the guard.
All right. It's Lucky's turn as the guard leaves and Kinzar palms off the last of the evidence.
I think Lucky's probably going to go slightly apeshit bonkers about now. But he got grappled as well, didn't he?
Yeah, he's
So
Natural
that
attacks don't
condition.
care about grapple.
I'm going to bite him
Right.
anyway. He's going to get a bit. Or not.
All right. Lucky tries to bite, grabbing, chomping, chewing.
And amongst howling, as Thea kind of just dies in a crumpled heap on the floor.
He's definitely howling. You can see eyes starting to well up with tears. Warg, it's your turn.
We're still gonna look over at the guard next to him and say, let's swap position. I want to be closer to Kinsar.
All right.
Can they 5-foot step swap?
Sure. Oh, well, like I said, there's like 8 of them, so there's like they're interchanging.
Just
You can just kind of move through the crowd of people heading towards Kinzar.
we're just gonna look over at Kinsar and say, I will make the best stand I can. You do what you can. I'll see this through. We'll meet in the afterlife.
Wherever we may go. I hope to see you there.
As this happens, you have
yeah.
a few seconds remaining, the both of you. What do you wish to do in that time?
Kinzar actually just raises his musket and starts taking shots.
Warg?
While this happens, Warg will try to get in between Kinsar and the thing, knowing that the thing will definitely kill him regardless, but at least be there as the shield.
All right. And with that, a huge tendril drops its weight on the both of you. There's a huge cloud of dirt that lifts off from the two of you. The broken bodies lie behind, and the guards continue to fight back. Many die during the exchange. At this point, oh yes, no, did you have something? I saw hands.
Yeah. During like the final dying breath, now Warg has the spell Breath of Life, which we all know Warg delivers as a kiss. Now I am fully willing to let that completely fail, as Warg delivers a final kiss to Kinsar
Oh yeah.
as they both die.
I'm not going to say what happens here because I would like to leave that to both my players and my audience's imagination. As we see Wolven, sorry, not Wolven, I keep saying Wolven. As we see the guard run, carrying a precious bundle, that he has no idea what it is or what shadow it might cast upon the world, the future itself resting in his very humble hands. A baton, a torch being passed from one to another as duty and honor hopefully will drive another group of heroes to complete the task at hand. And this is where we will end today's session. real quick, hi guys, welcome back. It's me. To add a little bit of extra context to that, this final scene between Warg and Kinzar was something that both players had previously discussed and agreed, with Warg playing a female character with a vested interest in Kinzar. So that's a whole other thing in terms of consent, and I would like to just let everyone know real quickly that there was already previously discussed consent that was already made, and both players were absolutely enthralled with how the ending of the game went. As for the Breath of Life, it didn't work, but it's nice, it's romantic.